welcome to Spellman's Magical Museum of the Circus and the story of the most wondrous family entertainment in the world. From the tumblers and jugglers of ancient Rome to the father of the modern circus, believe it or not, a sergeant major in the 15th Light Dragoons.
Mr. Spellman, I presume?
Elijah Spellman, at your service.
My name is Sarah Jane Smith. I'm a journalist. This is my friend, Clyde. We're here to talk to you about clowns.
Ah, the princess of the sawdust ring. This way, please. Mankind has always needed someone to make them laugh. Slave or king.
Can you do me a favor and drop a note to my teacher?
The pharaohs had fools. So did the Native Americans. We had harlequins. And in the Middle Ages, the jester.
It's not so much the clowns' showbiz history that I'm interested in as their reputation for scaring people.
The fear of the painted smile.
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, I am joined with...
Hello, it's Scott, and yes, we're back to Sarah Jane Adventures after... How long has it been?
Oh my god, a long time? A long time, probably. Yeah. What was the last episode we did was the wedding of...
No, it was... Yeah, it must have been the wedding of... Yeah.
Yeah, because it was back when our YouTube videos
probably like
did really
October.
Well. I will quickly check. Let's see. Spin-offs, because it was 8 months ago. Oh my god, how was that? Wow. 8 months ago? Holy shit. 18th of August 2023 nice. Is when we last covered Sarah Jane Adventures. So that's insane. It doesn't feel like it was quite that long ago. But we are indeed back covering Sarah Jane Adventures with the 2 parts, because every Sarah Jane Adventure episode was basically 2 parts. The Day of the Clown, which stars our one and only Bradley Walsh as Graham from Doctor Who. Like, you've never seen him before. And this is what Graham got up to before his adventures with the TARDIS. He's a weird dude. He was a weird dude. But this episode first aired on the 6th of October 2008, which was, of course, a Monday and a staggering 15 years, 6 months, and 20 days ago. So, yeah. If you are somebody that was born on the day that this episode came out, you are 15 years old. Almost 16. Halfway to insane. 16. Isn't that upsetting? So there were some interesting things that happened on this day, and there was really one major thing that is worth talking about, and that is, of course, 2008 is really famous for one really big thing that happened to society. Could you guess as to what that is? What was the really big thing that happened in 2008?
In October.
Well, it kind of happened across the whole year, but there were some big things that happened in October with it.
Is it Obama's election? Oh, no, I can't.
No.
November, isn't it? No.
Yeah, no. 2008.
2008. God knows. You're going to have to tell me.
It was the housing crisis when all the markets collapsed. The subprime mortgage crisis. On this day, the Dow Jones Industrial Index falls by 800.06 points, which is the largest intraday drop ever recorded. And then on October 26, 2004, the Dow closed below 10,000 for the first time. So it's dropped way more than it's ever dropped before in history. Richard Falls, who was the CEO of Lehman Brothers, said that he believed all of his decisions were prudent and appropriate given the information available to him at the time. With stock exchanges around the world suffering significant losses, the Sao Paulo Stock Exchange stopped trading following a 15% drop in its benchmark index, and the United States Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson announced that Neil Kashkari would be responsible for administering the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act of 2008, because in 2008 everything went to shit, because there's a really good movie called The Big Short, which I really recommend people check out if they haven't seen it. It kind of goes into the housing crisis, and specifically some people that managed to make a shit ton of money off predicting the housing crisis because they saw it coming a mile away, because it was disastrous. And what's even more fun now, do you want to know what's really fun now, is current market rates are higher right now than they were in the 2008 crash that caused the crash. The housing market is even worse than it was when it exploded in 2008. So, you know, we're just waiting for the next big one.
But you know, Obama was able to stop it from happening. Do you remember at Christmas 2009, Obama gave a big speech on Christmas Day television, and then he turned into a white man in front of everyone, and everyone turned into a white man.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And actually, speaking about Obama, I listened to his autobiography about recently. I don't remember what it was called. It was a very long book, but he goes into talking about the housing crisis and things like that, which the housing crisis began just before his first term in office. Like, imagine that is your first job. You have to deal with the biggest economic crisis in recorded history, you know, like since the Great Depression.
It's like being a headmaster at a new school, and your first thing to deal with is, all these kids are
funny
disappearing.
Kid in class. that kid in class is too funny.
What a great conversation to start a silly episode of a kids TV show. Like, this is what kids, you know, I can imagine kids really getting into Sarah Jane Adventures and then finding YouTube videos about Sarah Jane Adventures, and this is the first thing they click on.
It's important history to know where the world was like. Like, I remember, do you remember fucking Woolworths? They closed down in 2008, or a little bit after 2008, but it was part of this crisis, this economic destruction, destroyed Woolworths. I remember Woolworths very fondly, and then it went away. And I remember being a kid walking through one of the towns where we would go shopping, and there was just signs everywhere of like price drops, you know, like going out of business sale everywhere. It was a crazy time, and of course at the time I had no idea it was even happening, because I was 8 years old. I was just happily going along, enjoying life, you know?
If you pick up Russell T. Davis's book, The Writer's Tale, in his email exchanges with Benjamin Cook, he talks about Woolworths closing, because that's a really big sign that things are changing in the country. And of course, he's kind of panicked about it, because it means maybe they won't do how many specials were there in 2009? There was talks about one of the specials being removed completely because there was just no money. No money at all, which is... Oh, what a great time.
It's really cool. But what was even cooler was the movies in the cinema that people were going to watch, that were raking in all that precious cash that people really couldn't afford to spend on anything but high quality products. So, could you guess? I have both the UK and the US. They are different movies. The US, you might possibly be able to get if somehow, like as like a fucking shot in hell that you even know about the movie. If you get the UK one, I honestly would be so insanely impressed, because I hadn't even heard of this movie before.
Can you give me a hint?
Let me see. It was produced by Adam Sandler. And it stars Colin Hanks and Emma Stone.
Yeah, I know, right? 2008.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Emma Stone. I love Emma Stone. I've seen most of her movies. I don't think
I
I've probably
don't
seen
think
this
you've
one.
seen this one.
It can't be funny, people. Because that came out 2009?
No. I don't know.
No.
It's not funny, people.
What
I'll,
came out before?
it is, I'm just going to tell you the UK one because I honestly don't think you're going to get it. But so the UK one is a film called House Bunny. You ever heard
Okay, I've heard
of
of
House
that,
Bunny?
yes.
Okay, wow,
Yes.
okay. I hadn't. So House Bunny...
Because I keep on looking at Emma Stone's IMDb because I want to go through every Emma Stone film because I
Right.
fucking love her, you know?
Okay.
I just want to
Yeah.
watch all of them. I'm like, what the hell is House Bunny? I'm guessing
Well, you're
it's
about
a
to find
Playboy
out.
movie.
It was #1 in the UK for a whole week. House Bunny is a 2008 American comedy film directed by Fred Wolf and written by the writing team of Karen McCullough-Lutz and Kirsten Smith, while being produced by Adam Sandler, Jack Giropato, Anna Faris, Alan Cover, and Heather Perry. Film stars Anna Faris, Colin Hanks, and Emma Stone, and tells the story of a former Playboy bunny who signs up to be the house mother of an unpopular university sorority after finding out that she must leave the Playboy mansion. So it's I'm going to guess raunchy, teen comedy set at a college frat house. So it feels really like it would belong more in the 80s, you know, like along with those like Revenge of the Nerds type movie. That's what it kind of gives me the vibes of, you know, where it's like, this is a really gross film and I'm glad that they don't make them anymore type movies. But this came out in 2008 and somehow hit #1 at the box office.
Yeah, it turns out it was a box office success. It 25 million budget, 70 million box office. So that's a decent hit, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely insane that ended up. But 2008 was a pretty shit year for a lot of films. There's some classics: Tropic Thunder, Dark Knight, The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. You know, all the ones that everybody loves came out in 2008. But could you guess the U.S. #1
Again, I'll need a
box
hint.
office? It is. Let me see. How do I want to? It's a Disney movie, or it was produced at least by Walt Disney Pictures.
Mm-hmm.
It is part of a sprawling franchise with many sequels. It is.
Does it star Nick Cage? Or
No.
Johnny Depp?
No, but it does have Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Disney movie. Does it also have Betty White, or am I thinking of another movie?
If it does have Betty White, I don't think I didn't
I'm
write it
probably
down.
thinking of another movie. Jamie Lee Curtis. 2008. October.
2008 Disney film, #1 at the box office. Lots of sequels. The sequels were all direct to DVD. So the
Right,
sequels
yeah, of
did not
course,
go to
it's-
cinema. Yeah, it's Disney. That's what they do.
Oh,
It is
live action, I suppose.
It is live action, but it really doesn't have any need to be live action because the main characters are not human.
G-Force.
No, I
No.
wish. I fucking wish.
Christ. The main characters are not human. I
You're-
presume it's
you're-
one of those Air Pups movies.
Oh, okay, you're really close. It does
Yeah.
have dogs. It is about dogs.
Yeah, like they have a million like Santa pups and snow
Yeah.
pups and astronaut pups and too
Pups
many
isn't
of them.
Pups isn't in the title. It's not about golden retrievers. It's about a different type of dog. A type of
Chihuahuas?
dog. You maybe.
Beverly Hills.
It's Beverly Hills
Yes, okay.
Chihuahua. Beverly Hills Chihuahua was a 2008 American comedy film produced by Walt Disney Pictures and is the first in the Beverly Hills Chihuahua saga, the epic, sprawling story that is Beverly Hills. It's directed by Raja Gosnell and was released on October 3rd, 2008. It stars Piper Perabo, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Manolo Cardona as the human leads, and Drew Barrymore, George Lopez, and Annie Garcia as the voiceover roles of the dogs. The plot centers on a female chihuahua named Chloe who gets dog-napped in Mexico and has to escape from an evil Doberman, El Diablo, with the help of the lonely German shepherd Delgado and a hyperactive male chihuahua, Pappy, who has a desperate crush on her. There was a sequel, Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2, that went direct to DVD, and then Beverly Hills Chihuahua 3, Viva la Fiesta, was released in 2012. So, and I will shock you with some, or perhaps not shock you, but I have seen all 3 movies. I have seen every single entry in the Beverly Hills Chihuahua series, and not of my own volition. So I have younger siblings that are significantly younger than I am, so they were like bang on the target audience when this film came out, you know, like toddler, and so it played in my house for many days, like constantly. It was one of those films that was just always on, and I fucking hated it. Absolutely despised it.
Yeah, I've never seen this movie. I've had no interest to see it. When was Hotel for Dogs made? Because this was like the late 2000s was all about 2009. The late 2000s was all about dog movies, especially talking dog movies. I don't think Hotel for Dogs had a talking dog, but
it was, it still had dogs. Yeah, there was a
fucking dog movies from Disney, especially.
You got the Beethoven movies, Firehouse Dogs.
Bolt came out around the same time.
Marmaduke, the live-action Marmaduke in 2010. Cats and Dogs, Dr. Dolittle, 2009. Yeah, there's a lot of animal movies. They're still making them. Beethoven's Show Dogs came out in 2018, and there was that like raunchy comedy.
Yeah, Strays.
Yeah, with the which I never saw either because it looked shit. But,
yeah, you and I saw the trailer at the cinema when we went to see Oppenheimer.
Oh yeah, what a weird,
and we were like, weird
trailer for what a weird trailer to play before Oppenheimer.
Really set the mood.
That is what the world was like in 2008 coming into this episode. People are out watching Beverly Hills Chihuahua. They're out watching House Bunny and being presumably perverted. And meanwhile, they're just turning a blind eye to the fact that like the housing market has completely collapsed on itself and nobody has any money anymore. It was a fun year, 2008. A really fun year. But that's all I have for On This Day. So why don't you take us into our next segment, Scott?
I have nothing about this next segment, so we're just directly going into the episode.
Wow! Let's jump into Day of the Clown, shall we? With part 1.
Who are you? And what do you want?
Who am I? I am the Pied Piper, who conjured away a whole town's infants and has chilled the hearts of parents for more than 7 centuries. And now I am Bob the Clown, who snatches children in the heartbeat their mother's back has turned. I am the thing that lives in the darkest corners. I am all these things and more. I am all that you fear the most. And you are mine to feed on.
So, the episode opens up with some kids playing football in the park in the most 2008 outfits you've ever seen in your life. One of the kids kicks the ball into the woods. The other kids call him an absolute moron and force him to go out and get it. And one of them's like, I hope you get murdered by a killer clown. And he goes out and wouldn't you know it, there's Bradley Walsh all dressed up like a clown. And we cut into the title credits. What do you... Like, just straight off the bat, I think the way that they present Bradley Walsh in this episode is genuinely pretty good. Like, I think the horror elements in this episode really lift up the story because the rest of the story, like the dialogue and the acting, is some of the worst I've seen in Sarah Jane. And this, but like the horror element, I think like if I was like 8 years old watching this, I would have been scared as fuck. You know, like it does a really good job of being spooky.
Yeah, it's you know, this is just a PG version of Stephen King's It, and it does its job effectively. You know, I do wish they would not rip off It because it feels so cheap. But you know, like they could have come up with an interesting twist that wasn't just It. But
I
whatever.
mean, like, how many different ways is there to tell a story of a supernatural killer clown that's secretly an alien that kills kids? like you can really like Stephen King kind of hit it right on the fucking head. Like, this is how you do that story, and so there's not too many alternatives. I guess just don't do it. Just just come up with a different idea because that idea's been done.
But yeah, I do like this opening because, you know, what works about modern Doctor Who is they take the regular everyday stuff and make it terrifying, you know, like Blink and stuff like that. You know, you could just imagine people playing football, kicking it in a bush and being like, oh shit, I'm too scared to go into a bush because I saw that episode of Sarah Jane Adventures. You know? Like, this is something that would terrify kids. I wasn't terrified when I watched it, but because I was a big, brave boy.
Wow. Are you scared of clowns? Are you someone that's scared of clowns?
No. There was one time myself, my mum, and my nan went to the circus, and we were in the front row, and there was this clown doing like pre-show stuff to warm up the crowd and stuff, and he's going around shaking hands, and I was too scared to shake this clown's hands. Because, you know, I've seen shows
what if he fucks
like
with
The
you?
Simpsons.
What if he fucks with you?
Yeah, what if he fucks with me? What if he humiliates me in front of the entire audience, you know? What if he has an electric shocker? Yeah, and I was just so scared of being humiliated. And I was also like, is he going to pull me up on stage and force me to do a tightrope walk or something? Like, I was just terrified of this guy.
See, I think I'm part of the small minority of people that genuinely really likes clowns. Like, I think clowning is such an impressive art form, and I don't understand the stigma that people are like, oh fuck, clowns are so scary. I hate like I don't think I've ever thought clowns are scary. I don't know if I've ever truly believed people that say they are scary as well, because they're really not that scary. It's
no, I'm fine. I'm fine with clowns all the time, apart from that one time. You know, for some reason, and just in my head, I just had an anxiety attack.
Interesting. So from there we go into the opening credits, and we then cut into the thrilling action of Luke reading an email. What's interesting here is that they actually have email addresses that you can see. So this episode takes place on the 9th of October, so it takes place a few days ahead of when it actually aired, which is an interesting...
Wait a minute. Characters say it's a Monday.
Yeah.
But the 9th of October would be a
unless it's set not in the year, so it's set like 3 years before, 3 years after. So maybe that's
that's confusing. Maybe it's set.
I hope someone got fired.
Next week.
I hope someone got fired for this.
Maybe it's set for next week, but why would he be reading this old email from last week?
He's got a huge backlog, you know. He's trying to get through it all. So this is an email from Maria, who is no longer on the show for reasons. I'm not sure why she left.
The lady left because she wanted to focus on school, which is fair enough. In the email, she tells the most interesting story about our fridge is the biggest fridge I've ever seen. It makes ice and tells you, I can't figure out how to change the settings yet. He can program entire whatever. Half of the email is cut off, but she really talks about the fridge. She's really excited. That's the first thing she really talks about.
It's a really interesting email. It's like, hi Luke, how are you? How's everything back home? It seems like it was just ... You're having fun. I miss you all so much. How's Sarah Jane? Things are good here. Me and Dad are living in a wicked house. Something about something, and then broadband, and my bedroom is massive. Broadband is massive? Broadband and my bedroom is massive.
I guess she's saying we have really fast broadband and my bedroom
is it's just because it's cut off. I can't really see it. We've even got a swimming pool, I guess is how that... fucking Just where a mansion to these guys. They got a swimming pool in a UK house. Oh no, because they moved. They're not in the UK
they
anymore.
They moved to America. I think
so that
her
makes
dad
sense.
took a government job, so so her dad is working with the White House or something. I can't remember.
Interesting. Also, swimming pools are much more common in like American suburbs than they are in UK. I don't know anybody that has a fucking swimming pool in their house.
Never do I.
But yeah, that's a really fun email. I wonder what would happen if you sent an email to luke.smith@electronrider.com. I wonder if that's a genuine email. I wonder if if you got a reply? What if you're like, "Hey Luke, how goes fighting aliens?" And he's like, "It certainly goes."
That would be a fun thing, you know. If you that would be a fun thing, you know. Just send Luke an email on a
like
CBBC website.
Yeah, and you just get like a generic auto reply or something, you know. But Sarah Jane's like, "Oh, you're missing Maria, aren't you? And everything's gonna be okay." And then their buddy, the jokester, the guy whose name I don't remember, Clyde. Is it Clyde? Yeah, I knew it was a cl sound. Clyde comes in, who normally I have quite enjoyed him in previous episodes. I fucking despise him in this two-parter. And I don't think it's his fault. I just think like his dialogue is especially atrocious in these two episodes. I think he's doing the best with what he can, but just throughout the entire thing, he's super unlikable, and everyone's performances feel off in this. Like even Sarah Jane feels like she isn't trying, you know, like she's very, very stilted.
I don't see him. I like Clyde. He's fine, you know.
Yeah, I like him most of the time. It's just it's pure dialogue that I don't like. But anyway, someone's moving in already across the street into Maria's old house, and they're for sure destined to become a protagonist almost instantly. It's like the universe wants them to meet. But they swear to Sarah Jane that they're not going to interact with her, and they're going to keep their doings with aliens secret and not tell anybody at all, because you know it would be dangerous. They gotta keep everything secret. I don't know how I feel most of the time about keeping the alien secret stuff. I guess you need to have that drama of, oh, nobody can find out, and it's this like secret adventures we go on. But also like it's that constant problem with the Doctor Who universe of people just don't remember or are forgetful whenever aliens come to it. Like, how do you keep it secret that aliens are invading through outer space right above your head right now?
I mean, it's not just a Doctor Who thing. It's a Buffy thing. It's a thing that's carried out throughout most sci-fi shows set in schools. You know, like Buffy has a whole thing like this. I'm fine with it. It's most of the time they explain it as, oh, people just don't want to believe in the
they rationalize it. Clyde and Luke are walking through the school halls, and Clyde's like, "Oh, you fancied that girl that left, didn't you? Ha 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 ha." And Luke's like, "No, I didn't fancy anybody. No way." And it's some really, really good dialogue. And then Clyde goes over to his locker, and he's just outwardly talking. Like, we just had a scene where Sarah Jane is like, "Don't tell anybody about the aliens," and then Clyde in the middle of the school hall is like, "I like fighting Slitheen and Sontarans and all these guys." Like, it's so bad at keeping secrets.
One of the things about Luke that I like in this episode is he's kind of like, a lot of people view him as neurodivergent, which I think is a reasonable read, and obviously neurodivergent people often can't handle change, and I think Luke in this episode is very well characterized in this way. Like, he's really good as a character in this episode.
Luke really was the young Sheldon of our time. Clyde opens up his locker and gets knocked, all of his books get knocked over by, wouldn't you guess it, the lady that's moving in across the street, Rani, who just so happens to want to join their gang as well later on. And I was already familiar with Rani. We've covered Rani before. We've had an episode with her already. She's fine. She gives a good performance, decent companion. She doesn't have an awful lot to do in these two episodes, which, you know, sucks, but it's her introduction. She gets more as it goes on.
But yeah, I do like that the cast of Sarah Jane Adventures is always kind of like diverse. You know, it's really nice to have like a diverse group of people in this show. It's nice for a kids show, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people at the time thought she was going to be the Rani, the villain to the Doctor, like the Time Lord lady.
It is an interesting decision to give one of your main characters the same name as one of your iconic villains. You know, it's like, oh, here's our new classmate, Davros. He's just called Davros. It's just a coincidence. Like, you could come up. There's a million names. Why did you choose that one?
But of course, she would go on to date the Master, Sacha Dhawan. So that's an interesting combo there.
It's like poetry. It rhymes. They go into class where we get a little bit of an introduction to. It's kind of like a refresher, I guess, because this is still like the third episode of series 2, so they do a decent job of being like, "Hey, Luke, you're the brains, you're a smart guy," and and we find out that Clyde is the Joker. He's a Joker guy. He tells lots of jokes. They're pretty subtle about that character. They're pretty. You just gotta catch it every now and then. He'll just do like a witty one-liner or something like that, and it's they play it really subtle with Clyde's character. But yeah, it's pretty interesting how they kind of brush over, like, Luke. Oh, you're the smart one, Luke. We can establish that in one scene, but we need to establish 15,000 times that Clyde is funny. That's why they don't even make him say jokes though. Like they don't. He's not there just actually being funny. He's there going, "I'm funny. I'm the funny guy." Like that's his bit. Is he says he's funny without doing anything. Like.
I guess it's because Luke being smart plays absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, it doesn't help.
Like,
He's a
he
pure
doesn't
idiot.
do anything. He doesn't do anything apart from, "Oh, I miss my friend."
Yeah. Yeah. But also the jokes Clyde say are shit. I just want to put that out there. He's not funny. He is a terrible comedian, and all of his jokes are not original. They're like shit dad jokes that he's heard from like a joke book,
At the end of part 2, he tells
oh my God,
what you call fish with no eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
which is which is carried over into Ghostbusters Afterlife with a neurodivergent girl at the end of the movie. She tries to tell Gozer some jokes, if you remember. And she tells the exact same fish joke.
Have I seen Afterlife? Which one's Afterlife? Is that the first one with Ant-Man?
Yeah, the first reboot. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
then
not
yeah,
good.
I really don't remember anything from that movie other than being kind of like uncomfortable of them bringing back what's his name that died.
Harold Ramis.
As CGI ghosts. But I mean, I guess it was directed by his son, so I guess.
Well, no,
like,
not his son. Ivan Reitman's son.
Oh yeah, it was Reitman. Yeah. So yeah, it's just kind of gross. I didn't like it.
They did get permission from the family and all that.
Yeah.
So it's not. But yeah, it is.
I didn't
really creepy and unsettling. I hated it so much.
Yeah. But anyway, this isn't about Ghostbusters. The headmaster, the new headmaster, comes into the school. What happened to the old headmaster?
I do not know. They talk about how he disappeared or something, which reminds me of. Yeah, which reminds me of Buffy. There's a lot going on in Buffy where headmasters would just suddenly be killed or disappeared, because like the first headmaster in Buffy was murdered by a pack of students who were possessed by hyenas, and then he got replaced by Snyder.
Okay. Zack Snyder became the head of that school. So the headmaster comes in and is an absolute psychopath the entire time, which, like, his daughter is in that class, as we later
Yeah.
find out. So how much of it is him just trying to straight up embarrass her? How much of it is him as just a straight up asshole? And also we find out that he's like warning everybody about the kids that are going missing because there's this killer clown about that they don't know it's a killer clown. And if they see anything or they hear anything, to just contact the police immediately. And he's like, I'm going to every classroom and I'm telling everybody this. And it's like this could be a assembly. Just get everybody, get the whole school into one room, knock it out easy. And you could establish the exact same scene. Like, you could have Clyde whispering jokes to Luke, you know, and then he's like, "Oh, Clyde, shut up!" And he's like, "I'm just a joker. I just tell jokes, you know." And you still. I guess you have to pay more people. You have to pay extra.
That's the thing. That's the thing. But you could just focus on like the first 3 rows of people.
Yeah,
have the rest in darkness or something. I don't know. But like the idea of him going around class to class, there's probably like 20 classrooms. He's probably in each classroom for about 5 minutes. So
if not way more than 20. This is a secondary school, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know.
These kids are all at least,
depends on how big the school is,
13 years old. And, you know, so if, I mean, like, even, like, I didn't go to a huge secondary school. There were maybe 800 pupils at my school. This is in London. There's a lot more kids there, you know? Like, this is a huge fucking school, surely. Unless it's, like, mega private. Like, this is the posh kids' school. Like,
but either way, he's spending, like, most
his
of his...
whole day.
All of his
day.
morning.
Yeah. His entire first day at work. He's like, I don't want to... I do not want to do this job. Like,
yeah, it's kind of insane, but oh well.
Yeah. But this is we then cut to Sarah Jane, who wants to be a good neighbor.
You missed out. Rani does see the clown in the window.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Bradley Walsh is like, hello.
Then Sarah Jane goes to see the neighbor, which is Rani's mum, who's still moving in, and she brings over what looks like some cupcakes or something and some tea. And, you know, she's like, I'm just being a good neighbor. Let's just chat and meet up and, like, have a nice time and give some exposition about who you are and who your daughter is and things like that.
Because we missed out talking about it, but Clyde mentions that maybe Maria left something alien behind in her bedroom or something. So that's why Sarah Jane is over to scan the house to make sure there's nothing in there.
Yeah, we then cut to Luke and Rani slowly kind of becoming friends, and Luke's in just the worst outfit I've ever seen in my life. This is also, I know it's a kid's show, but I want to hold it to a higher standard because this dialogue is fucking terrible. Absolutely atrocious. Like, it's like Luke has a line where he's like, I'm not strange, I'm just different. You know, it's so cringy. Yeah. It's such bad dialogue for him. It does not make him likable at all.
It's really on the nose.
You know what it reminds me of?
Yeah.
It reminds me of, you know, the really famous scene from Riverdale with one of the one of the Sprouses. And he's like, I'm a weirdo. I wear this hat. That's not normal. Like,
okay.
You know, like...
I thought you were talking about the.
The football one.
You don't know the thrills of football. Of high school
prison.
football.
Or he's in prison.
Maybe we
show.
should do Riverdale someday.
No, I only watched season 1 of that show. I never continued.
I only watched the first 4 episodes because people at college were obsessed with that show, and I was like, "This is terrible. What the fuck are you on about?"
It was. But I don't know if it ever crossed the stream of being like self-aware. And they purposefully made it as awkward and cringy as possible because it's like that's the vibe they were going for. But yeah, it sucked.
I mean, I think they do eventually become self-aware because I saw a video essay on the whole show. Like at the end of the show is them being superheroes or something and alternate dimensions, and then they get stuck in the 50s. I don't know. It's a very bizarre show.
Yeah.
And then the ending is them watching Riverdale. The characters watching Riverdale is the ending of a show. And then and then they comment on how ridiculous the show is. I think.
Insane. That is insane. They did a crossover. Did they do a crossover with the Sabrina show as well?
Yeah, Sabrina Carpenter
yeah.
comes over,
Yeah.
which makes sense because Sabrina the Teenage Witch was a character in the original Archie comics. What a bizarre universe.
Strange world.
But yeah, Clyde is playing basketball in the background, and the whole point of this scene is he's supposed to be showing off to Rani because he has a crush on her. It doesn't really convey.
Oh, I
very
didn't.
well,
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
yeah, that's what I got from the script anyway. So I think it's just not shot well at all. So,
yeah.
And then Clyde hits the new headmaster on the head with the basketball, and it's clearly a mistake, but the headmaster is like, "Oh, what are you doing?" It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
but I mean, like that's a pretty standard reaction. If you were at school and you threw a ball off a teacher's head, like, it's game over for you. Like, you're fucked. You gotta go in.
But yeah, to go to the office, it's just a whole abuse of power kind of thing. Like, when I was at school, I accidentally swore once in PE because I got injured. I can't remember where the injury was, but I swore because I was in pain. And the teacher was like, "Oh, I'm going to send you to the head teacher's office." And I'm like, "It was an accident. I swore because I'm in pain. It's not like I swore on purpose."
That's interesting.
It's just a whole abuse of power.
Maybe it's just my school was like scum-filled, but I don't think we ever I don't know if we ever really got in trouble for swearing. I don't remember ever having to censor myself when I was like in class. Like, I wouldn't actively be like, "Fuck you, teacher," but like if I was like having a casual conversation with somebody, I don't remember ever being like, "Oh yeah, that fucking, oh shit, I shouldn't say that."
There was people in my business management class, and my business management teacher was insane, and people were like, people said the word "damn," and he's like, "Don't you say that word." Don't say
Christ.
"damn." And we were like all 16-ish at the time. I got into trouble for swearing at university.
That's so funny. Oh my god.
I was busy editing a video on the computer. Somebody accidentally unplugged the computer, and I swore. My lecturer was like, "Who said that? Who said the word fuck?" And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "Please don't swear. Don't swear in my classroom." And I'm like, "Okay."
Like, say what
what
I
the
want.
fuck?
I'm just gonna be like, I would continue to swear.
I was like 22 at the time. Like,
Yeah.
insane.
That's when I was at university, because I went to uni over over COVID. We had a college lecturer, and this is a classic college lecturer blunder. He's like an older guy. It's like maybe his like 50s or 60s, and not many people liked him because his lectures were really dry. But I quite enjoyed the stuff. And he used to host movie nights because it was during the pandemic, so he'd like live stream movies with everybody and like commentate on them, and it was a pretty good time. But there was once where he like had recorded like a slideshow or something, and he opened up his web browser, and wouldn't you know what he had bookmarked? Wouldn't you know what he had bookmarked? It was classic lecturer but blunder. Who bookmarks porn? Why would you do that? On your fucking work computer as well. But we go back to Sarah Jane meeting with Rani's mum, and we find out that Rani wants to be a journalist. She's very nosy, and she wants to meet Sarah Jane. Sarah Jane kind of tries her best to dismiss it and things like that, being like, "Oh, I'm too busy," because, of all the aliens. But there's really no stopping it. If you live in that house, it's main character syndrome. You're getting added into the crew. Sarah Jane is just trying to resist the inevitable, really.
Yeah.
But
I am glad that Sarah Jane constantly has a characterization of, "I don't want kids to get involved in the alien business, I don't want kids to get hurt or worse." Like, that's a big responsibility for a kid's show, Like, she could come across as so irresponsible here, but the fact that Rani actually wants to find out what's going on is important for the show, because otherwise Sarah Jane is just a creepy old lady who kidnaps kids, essentially.
We then go to Clyde sitting in the waiting area, I guess, for the office. He hasn't actually been brought into the office. He's just sitting outside. His good mate, Dave, it just kind of wanders by and is like, "Oh, you still here, Clyde? Oh, what's going on? That's so mean. Anyway, I'm going to walk into this cupboard now. See you soon." Then he just goes into the cupboard, and Clyde's aimlessly looking at some trophies. He sees the reflection of a clown go into the cupboard with Dave. And then when Clyde follows, neither of them are there to be seen. The cupboard is empty. Rest in peace, Dave. You were my favorite character. Then Clyde continues to chase the clown, trying to find out where he is, and the clown's like leading him through the hallways. Clyde almost catches him, but the clown disappears at the last second. It follows him into a bathroom where we get a pretty fun mirror scene where Clyde's looking at the reflection, but he sees the clown instead, and the clown's like, "Hey, I just want to give you this balloon," and stretches his hand out through the mirror, which is some fun horror imagery. Again, it's very Stephen King. It's very it doesn't feel, but if you were like, if you were like 8 to 10 and you had you obviously wouldn't have been exposed to it by this point, or hopefully you wouldn't have been, so this wouldn't have felt so unoriginal to you. This would have been pretty fucking spooky.
I'm trying to think, was I exposed to it around this time? Because I was around 10 years old when this came out. I can't remember.
You would have been like 11 almost, wouldn't you?
Yeah, almost 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have been, but I honestly can't remember. But yeah, this is a really good PG version of it. I just wish it wasn't a direct rip-off. I wish there was a bit more creativity in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that mirror shot is pretty decent for a kids show with zero budget. That's pretty good.
It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. It's not bad. But before he can take the balloon, he is interrupted by the headmaster, who opens up the bathroom door and is like, "Where did you go, Clyde? I was looking for you." And it's like, he's standing in a bathroom. And I think you can figure out, like, it's not truly why he's there, but you can come up to your own logical conclusion as to why he might be in a bathroom, You've left him sitting outside your office for fucking ages.
Also, he fucking does not knock. Like, he could be pissing in the urinal.
Yeah. Although, like, that's not too unfamiliar for, like, teachers to do in school. I remember being in gym in PE, and we were all in the changing rooms, and frequently our gym teachers would just walk into the changing rooms and be like, "All right, lads, make sure you get your stuff ready." And like, we're all in our underwear. I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, they did not. They would just come straight in.
Like, fair enough, opening the door and then shouting through the doorway without seeing anyone, but
they just walked in. They didn't give a fuck. They were like,
goodness me.
But we then get an interview with Clyde and the headmaster, where we find out again that he's the funny guy. He just tells jokes. He just wants to tell jokes. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He just tells jokes. That's what he is.
But I am glad they reminded us this, because I could not remember. It's been a whole 4 minutes since they last told us, and I just completely forgot,
Again, imagine if instead he actually told a joke.
Yeah.
You could have been like, Clyde, he's so funny, and you can figure out yourself that he's the funny one, rather than being told over and over again that he's the funny one without any context clues. But we find out that kids are still missing and that Dave's nowhere to be found. The scene doesn't really progress anybody everywhere. The head teacher's butting heads with Clyde still. And then we cut to Clyde and Luke walking through just hordes of children, where they're like, "Hey, Clyde's trying to convince Luke that what he saw is real, that there's a killer clown kidnapping and disappearing kids, or whatever the fuck is happening to them." And Luke's like, I believe you, but I don't really understand any of the logic behind what's happening. And then
Luke has the line, "Why would an alien be dressed as a clown? Does it exist in the Doctor Who universe? And is it? And if it does exist in the Doctor Who universe, is it inspired by Bradley Walsh.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh,
it's a hard one, isn't it?
yeah, it is. I like to imagine that it does exist, but both of the this is like the British version of Pennywise, and then like the books like Stephen King's It books and the TV movie and things like that, they don't exist, but over in Maine, straight up Pennywise exists. I like you know, that's there are these two parallels, you know. It's like poetry, it rhymes. But Clyde sees Bradley Walsh lurking behind some trees, and he's like, "Yo, look, Luke, he's right over there." And Luke doesn't see him. They chase after, following the clown. And there's some really weird cinematography at one point where they're running through like these back streets through this like housing bit. And they're like running up this hill, and then clear as fucking day, Bradley Walsh just kind of walks from left to right of the screen with like Luke would see him. Luke fucking, he's right in front of his face.
I think the whole point is that only people with the circus tickets can see the clown, which is why Luke can never see the clown.
Right. Interesting.
Because the Dave Finney guy had the circus tickets as well, so that's why he could see the clown. But only
when did
people
Clyde
with
get
his
circus tickets?
It's explained. I think his mum gave him the tickets because she was at the train station or something. It's explained in part 2, I think.
Right.
Or
okay,
later on in this episode.
Just don't remember it then. But anyway, they're running by, chasing after him. They don't find him, but they do eventually find a red balloon attached to a bin, which Clyde is about to grab. Rani stops him. She's like, "Don't touch it." And he's like, "Why?" And she's like, "I don't know, but don't do it." And then we see the clown in the balloon and it pops. And that's the shittest reasoning that anyone has ever given to not touch something. It's such a cop-out. Like, you can't, like, Rani can't be like, "Just trust me," you know? Like, she already knows that information. She's like, "I don't know. I don't fucking know." Like, just don't do it. I don't know. Like,
I mean, the whole reason why she's saying not to touch it is because children disappear when they touch it, but she wouldn't know that children disappear when they touch it. I think she's trying to rationalize how the alien. Yeah, it's a weird
like
thing.
Dialogue wise, having your character say, "I don't know," like, "I just don't touch it." Like, you could establish the same thing by being like, "Just trust me," you know, and that's way more. Like, you know, she's taking charge. She's confident in her opinion, rather like she's trying to save his life, rather than being like, "I don't fucking know. I just say things. I just do stuff." Yeah, like, you know. Again, the dialogue's really bad, but the balloon pops after an okay effect of it's not great. Bradley Walsh's big face in the red balloon. Also, it being a red balloon is really Stephen King it as well. Like,
yes,
why not a blue balloon or a yellow balloon? It's specifically a red balloon, you know?
Yeah, again, the parallels are insane. Like, nobody thought, "Hey, maybe we should do something to have a little twist on this." But no.
I guess that they just see it as an homage. You know, it's like a parody almost. But it's still fun. It's not terrible. So the episode continues on with everybody kind of just walking home and discussing like, "Oh, that was kind of weird what happened, wasn't it?" And eventually, when they're standing outside Rani's house, she makes a really witty remark, which is strange because I didn't think she was the funny one, about how like Luke isn't like they're turning a blind eye to this clown because Luke's too busy with his MP3 player. Like, the most 2008. I had an MP3 player. I had loads. Definitely around this time. I had absolutely tons of MP3 players, mainly because they kept breaking because they were shit. MP3 players were not built to last at all. But
I had an iPod at some point, but I never used it.
Mr. fucking rich over here with his iPod. No, I had an MP3 player that I pirated songs onto.
Nice.
Which is how and it was great because none of them had the right names, so it was never I never really knew what song was on. Classic time,
always
simpler
a surprise.
time. Yeah, simpler time. Eventually, her father pulls up, and wouldn't you believe it, he's the head teacher. Oh my god, I'm stunned. Stunned that that's her father. The new head teacher and the new student being related. Crazy.
Yeah, they look nothing alike.
This is also a strange scene as well, because we get introduced to all the characters again. When we find, like, Clyde introduces himself to Ratty's mom, Luke introduces himself, Sarah Jane comes over and introduces herself to that. Like, it's like, oh, we're everybody's meeting, so we get to learn who everybody is towards the end of this episode.
This episode weirdly feels like a pilot, you know? Like, every character gets
really
introduced a million times for no reason. Like, fair enough, you have to introduce yourself to the new character, but stop there. You don't need to keep going, he's the funny one, he's the smart one, she's the curious one.
They really are constantly, like, trying to establish which each character is. And reinforce that throughout. It does really feel like a pilot. You're right. They go back to Sarah Jane's house eventually, and there's some more slander about clowns here, where they're like, God, clowns are so scary, and Sarah Jane's like, yeah, I'm scared of clowns, and then fucking Luke's like, so's Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is fucking weird. I don't even know if it's true. Is it true? Is Johnny Depp?
It is.
Yeah?
It is true.
Wow.
Yeah, I looked this up. He is.
Wow.
Sarah Jane.
Where does clown end? And what's the name of the fucking guy from Pirates of the Caribbean that he plays? I don't remember his name.
Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, and like, where does clown end and Jack Sparrow begin? Because Jack Sparrow does a lot of clowning. You know, he's like goofy. He's like falling over all the time.
I mean, he fucking played the Mad Hatter twice. That's a fucking clown. The Mad Hatter is a fucking clown. Just
tell you what,
makeup.
he's a liar. He's a fucking liar. Johnny Depp is not scared of clowns.
do you remember how great it was when he did that little dance at the end of Alice in Wonderland? What a fucking great movie. He did a little break dance.
I've seen that film, I think, once when it came out. Did not like it. Never saw it. Didn't see the sequel. Bad movie. Also, Johnny Depp has only played Jack Sparrow since getting cast as Jack Sparrow. Yep. And he's got range. I've seen him do great performances, but once he hit Jack Sparrow, he's like, oh, this is what I'm doing in every role now.
He really stopped giving a shit. And also, terrible person. Hot take. But yeah, Sarah Jane being frightened of clowns is kind of a cute touch, because she's met Davros, the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Sontarans, like a million villains, like the Doctor's most iconic villains. At the end of the day, she's most scared of clowns. That's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's fun. We go back to Rani's house, where her dad is like, I've got all the schoolwork from that kid that went missing today. I'm just going to leave it here on the table. Anyway, I'm going to go out the room with my wife and close the door behind us, so we're going to smash. You, Rani, don't look at those books that I've just left here on the table, and I've told you what the books are, and maybe there's clues in them, I said. So, but don't look at them.
because the wife is really into getting the bed moved, quote unquote.
Yeah, and then he shuts the door. Why would you shut the door in your own house if you don't want somebody, unless you don't want somebody to hear what's going on? And breaking in. It's their first night in the new house. They got to christen it, they got to break it in, so to say.
And there's a whole thing. There's a whole thing where the lady, when we were both outside the house, the lady was like, "Oh, did your father do the whole tough act routine?" I think she's horny for the whole tough act routine.
She likes it. Yeah, she likes it. Yeah. But yeah, Raddy ends up going through all the books. She sees the clown outside the window briefly. Although I guess her parents must smash real fast, because her mom comes right back in the room or Luke cock-blocked her dad, because he's in the house now. So they were about to.
It only takes a minute, right? That's how it works.
Luke comes in and he's like, "Oh, hey, I thought you might need a hand help unpacking your boxes," which what a dork move, one absolute dork thing to do, We then go to Sarah Jane, Clyde, and this new guy whose name I don't know, who's just there playing football. Yeah, and he's there he's there to let people know that the clown was handing out tickets to the circus outside of the train station to people, which is never. Maybe they explain it in episode 2 better, but they kind of like the tickets like a target or makes you get haunted or you get disappeared or something by the clown, but like you can't. How's the clown given tickets if you can't see him? There's a lot of logic here that's not connecting for me. I don't understand the rules for the clown.
The clown is Bradley Walsh, and people do see Bradley Walsh at the end of the episode, so it's not like he's a ghost clown that only certain people can see.
But then why couldn't Luke see him when they were running through the street? And he walked right in front of him.
Because at that time he only chose to be visible to Clyde.
Oh, okay. So he's God. he's like a god. He can just do whatever he likes whenever he feels like it.
I mean, we were going to go into it, but he is basically just the toy maker. He's like a magical being who can do everything, and his whole shtick is the toy maker.
Exactly, and he looks like the toy maker, or rather, the toy maker looks like him because he came before the version of the toy maker that Neil Patrick Harris played in the 60th anniversary, who was dressed almost exactly like Bradley Walsh in this episode. So my whole
theory is that these two characters are completely connected because it just makes complete sense. Like, they're probably connected like this Levine and the Azorbalov are connected, from twin planets or something.
What if they're literally the same person? Because don't in the 60th, the toy maker is like, I went back and like he's the reason for like all the plot holes and shit. So like he went back through the time. Like maybe this is just a version of the toy maker that's like, I'm gonna fuck with Sarah Jane as well. Ha 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 ha. Yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah. We then go to Luke and Rani as they're sitting in the bedroom going over like various drawings that the kid that went missing had made, where he's like, oh, look at these. He was really good at art. This guy was a good artist. These are really good drawings of clowns.
These are really fucking cool. These are like Todd McFarlane level almost. These are really good.
He would have a future as an artist if he wasn't murdered to death by a clown.
I mean, he comes back at the end of part 2.
Yeah, I was about to say, do they come back? I don't remember if they came back.
They make the whole point of once you're disappeared, there's a chance you could be disappeared forever, but it takes a little bit of time, once you're in the shadow realm.
Yeah. But Rani's like, hey, I got this ticket to the circus, and coincidentally they decide to go visit just as Sarah Jane and Clyde have figured out that same information. Isn't that lucky that they got the same? They figured out the same puzzle at the same time.
That almost never happens in television. Two separate groups of characters figuring out the same information at the same time never fucking happens. But how unique!
It's pretty unique. It is pretty unique. We find out that Sarah Jane we find out again that Sarah Jane is scared of clowns as they go into the museum of the circus, which Clyde is like is a scary, creepy place, and it's really just. It looks like a museum of a circus. Like there's painted walls, there's stuffed animals, there's like a history of like the circus around. Like what did you expect this place to look like? It looks exactly how it should. And this is where we are, of course, introduced to the one and only Bradley Walsh in his only Doctor Who appearance. He's never showed up in the show again. No. Well, of course, this is Bradley Walsh, who would go on to play Graham in the Chibnall era. Probably one of the better companions from the Chibnall era. He's right up there.
Apart from Dan.
I was about to say, he's right up there with Dan, but I only like Dan for the memes. So, like, I genuinely like Graham, at least in his first series. Like, there's some genuine heart to the role. There's some connection, and he's likable. In the second series, he had fuck all to do, and really didn't need to be there. And that's eventually why he left as well. But he's solid. I like Bradley Walsh enough. He just does game shows, and like he's a host of every single game show on TV at the minute. Him and his son.
Yeah, he's on television like every fucking day in the UK. Maybe some
really
people
is.
outside of the UK don't know him outside of Doctor Who, but he is like the most in-demand game show host ever. Basically, like he's the David Tennant of game show hosts.
he is everywhere. He's got one that he does with his son as well, which I love nepotism. It's my favorite.
Yeah, he does. He has
nepotism in the
show.
TV industry. But he lets everybody know, like, hey, look, I'm going to tell you about the history of the circus and how it's dated back from throughout all of human history, and it showed itself in different forms. Like in the medieval times, you had jesters and blah 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 blah. It's pretty fun stuff. Until eventually Sarah Jane's like, I hate clowns, they're so scary. Do you remember, like, they used to keep clowns in children's hospitals, and all the kids said the clowns scared them, so I bet that, clowns are scary. And I'm like, I reckon really that the kids were scared that they were in hospital and something was wrong, and then they projected that fear onto the clown paintings because they began to associate clowns with them being ill and or dying. So it's not the clown's fault, it's the room that they were in. If you had clowns painted all over like a playground or somewhere fun, I'm sure the story would be, the clowns are fun, but you stick them in a hospital, anything's going to be scary in a hospital. They're not nice places.
Yeah. And I still don't understand the fear of clowns. It's same with fears of spiders and
any
anything,
fear
really.
is like any fear is inherently irrational. Like that's it's the point of fear itself, is it doesn't make sense. It's an innate fear that you can't explain. I'm kind of like that with spiders. I don't know what it is. There's like small spiders don't bother me. Medium spiders don't really bother me, but there's a certain point when a spider just gets too big. I don't know what that point is, but I know it when I see it. When I see it, I'm like, fuck, that's too big.
The only thing I'm scared of is heights, but that's because I have really terrible balance. Like, I could get on the first step of a step ladder and my legs are shaking, and that's because of my balance. So, yeah, I get really bad vertigo. So that's the only reason why I'm scared of heights.
I get pretty bad vertigo as well. I've got okay balance, but I'm not a huge fan of heights. I try to avoid it where possible. But yeah. Yeah.
People would always go like, "Oh, you're so tall. How could you be scared of heights?" But it's like, physically, I'm always on the ground. Like when I'm off the ground, that's when I get scared of heights.
Although, like, you could reverse that logic, and it kind of still makes sense. Is you're so tall, so when you get higher, you're higher than anybody else. So for you, it's like it's even scarier. Like, you go up that one step on a step ladder. For me, it's as if I've climbed the whole thing. That's how high up you are. It's like if you were at the top of that step ladder, you're basically the size of a building. Like, it's terrifying.
That's a good point.
Anyway, Bradley Walsh is like completely chewing the scenery with his performance. I really like it. And again, playing into that toy maker aspect that we see with Neil Patrick Harris, his accent changes constantly. Like, he's doing like this kind of weird accent when he's in the red costume. He gets an American accent as the clown. He's got like this like Louis British accent when he's the Pied Piper, we find out that he's the Pied Piper as well, and that the Pied Piper is a true story about a guy that kidnapped a bunch of kids and then definitely didn't rape them, just killed them. It's
the whole Doctor Who thing of trying to explain away the magic of a creature. Yeah,
which is it's an alien.
I'm kind of glad we're getting away from that now. We just have goblins, and they're just from another universe. That's completely fine. I like the move.
I mean, like,
because
it's still basically the same explanation they always give, where it's like, oh, it looks like magic, but it's just an alien. Like it's whatever.
But yeah, when you do a vampire episode and you bend over backwards trying to explain how these vampires could be vampires, and it gets a bit too much sometimes with the explanations. Just like,
it's always
they're vampires. Let's just do vampires.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if you want a story like that, I would really recommend checking out this really cool story called Can You Taste the Color Orange? It's got things like that where it's just like, fuck it, there's vampires here. Yeah, you know, it's like... It's
Is
like
there
this
clowns?
There is, actually. There is clowns. there genuinely is, yeah. And there's clowns in a hospital! It's all connected. It's all connected. There's like these like clown quote unquote statues around this museum. They're very visibly people. Like they're very clearly people that start to come to life and like attacking everybody, and they're doing their best robot impression. It's let down, I think, by the budget here because the makeup, like they're just in clown makeup, but their skin looks too natural. Like they need to have like some sort of like plastic sheen or something over their exposed parts that make them feel a bit more, maybe some prosthetics on their face or something that just makes them feel more artificial, because these just feel like people doing bad robot impressions. And I thought it was very funny.
but it's fine enough. I just wish we could just go, yeah, we're Autons. You know?
Yeah.
They are basically just Autons here.
No, they're puppets, clown puppets. But they try to run to escape, but they can't get through because the door's locked, and Sarah Jane definitely doesn't have a sonic fucking screwdriver.
No,
on her, you know?
She tries with screwdriver.
Oh, it was deadlocked. It's triple deadlocked. It doesn't work on wood, blah blah blah.
She says the sonic doesn't work on telekinesis because Bradley Walsh is using telekinesis to lock the door, which is kind of insane.
If you have the ability of telekinesis, why would you bother to hold the door closed and not just physically stop them? Like, you waste your telekinesis powers to lock a door instead of just being actually, you can't move.
You could fucking remove the door entirely as well.
Yeah, but either way, he traps them in the room and he explains who he is and how he's the killer clown that's gonna get everything. It really feels like, oh my god, the stakes are the highest they've ever been. This episode's finally kicked into gear. And end credits. That's the end of the episode. It ends just as it's about to get good. Just as it's like just the episode is just properly starting and then it's over. Which is kind of a disappointing episode 1. It's fine. It's just a lot of setup with a lot of bad exposition. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the cliffhanger is how will they escape?
And then like
2 seconds later, we see the next time. Yeah, we see the next time trailer of outside.
Yeah.
Do you even need a next time trailer? Just leave it on a cliffhanger.
The cliffhanger works so much better than like just that's it, to be continued, and it's so much more dramatic because you're like, oh my god, they're in mortal danger here, rather than no, they're fine actually. You know, I mean, it's two halves with it whenever there's a next time trailer, because I love next time trailers in Doctor Who, but I get they don't work with two-parters. I think a next time trailer works better when it's like, oh, this was a bottle episode, everything was self-contained, the villain has been defeated, let's go in the TARDIS, and what's happening next time? Oh my god, Daleks are back! And then that's exciting, you know. But hey, it's a fine episode.
Yeah, part 1 is completely fine. It doesn't hold up as well as I remembered, but
I think part 2
is a kid's
better.
show, so we'll get into it. But part 2 has the weird thing where the first half of the episode feels like nothing's happening again.
Yeah, it's like regression back to episode 1.
Lives. It's weird.
Yeah,
but we'll get into it in a bit.
We will jump into part 2. Right now.
Yeah, certainly right now and not tomorrow.
Our clothes will not change, guaranteed.
Spellman, where are you?
Not scared of me, Miss Smith? Oh, I think you are.
If you hurt my son, Spellman, if you've done anything to him, I will destroy you!
The fear of a mother for her young. The strongest fear of all.
You better believe it!
So, episode 2 of the story, part 2 of the story. Sorry, I'm not used. It's definitely still the same day, but my webcam setup has changed slightly. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to build it. So right now it's slightly higher up, so it doesn't look like I'm looking into the camera. I need to start looking like this, like hello, father. This is about part 2 now for the Sarah Jane adventures. It picks up with the cliffhanger from part 1. With the doctor not the doctor, what the fuck am I on about? Sarah Jane, sorry, it's late. Sarah Jane, and all the children about to be murdered to death by the clown. But then Rani's phone goes off, and it's her mum phoning her, and also Luke calls out mum to Sarah Jane coincidentally at the same time, I guess. Because he's like, Mum, and then Rani looks at her phone and her mum is phoning. Either that or he's psychic.
But anyway, like,
and that,
yeah, the phone, somehow, the electromagnet waves of the phone has a similar frequency to Bradley Walsh's energy, somehow, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
Would it not have just been an easier answer to be like, oh, he got the phone ringing distracted him? Briefly enough, like there was like a flash, like a loss of concentration, a moment of loss of concentration, and we managed to burst out the door and get away. Like it was the skin of our teeth. Like that was pure luck, pure coincidence. We got out rather than this bullshit, like scientific reason.
Makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. But they managed to run away and go back to the house where they decide to just pump the brakes on the episode. As Sarah Jane has this big like speech to Rani at the start, which I kind of like. It's very cheesy. It's some very cheesy dialogue, but it's fun when she's like, you know, you could go back home, Rani, or you could stay with me. And if you stay with me, I promise you things will change forever. You know, your life is never going to be the same again. Da, da, da. It feels... You said earlier, you said when we were watching it about a different line that feels like it was built for the trailer. That line also feels like it was built for the trailer, you know?
Yeah, the line when Rani says when she's in the attic, any second my alarm's going to go off. A new school with your dad as a head teacher. Anyone who'd have nutty dreams. That's a trailer line and a half. Like,
that's
so on the nose.
all these extremely heavy-handed exposition scenes, you know, where it's just characters being like, this is who I am, by the way, this is everything that I do.
At least, in this first half, Clyde hasn't said he's a jokester yet. You know, he hasn't made one joke. I don't think he says anything at all, to be honest with you.
He's really hardly in the scene. But they go back into the house and they're like climbing up the stairs to the big house, and they look at a photo from series 1 of Sarah Jane with the other lady that's no longer in the show anymore. And Luke's all sad about that. Although like he's like it's a great photo because everybody's looking in different directions, and Sarah Jane has her eyes closed, Luke has his eyes closed. Like it's perfect. It's really, really good.
Yeah, Luke's head is faced towards the right for some reason. like he's just staring at the back of Maria's head, I think. He's also doing the bunny ears.
Also, like, who are they looking at? Why aren't they looking at the camera?
If I remember the episode correctly, it is Alan taking the picture. Our friend Alan.
Okay, but why aren't they looking, like, surely if Alan's taking the photo, he's gonna have the camera, like, where he's standing. He's not gonna be like, okay, guys, look at me.
I don't know why we're not looking at the camera, but whatever.
Yeah. But they go up into the attic, and the story continues to meander on as Rani is impressed by the house and all of the aliens going on, and then they show her Mr. Smith, and they try to figure out some stuff about the who this clown is. They pull up some information on the Pied Piper. If you're not familiar with who the Pied Piper is, go back to being 2 years old. You failed. Oh
my god, everyone fucking... Firstly, Mr. Smith, like the most important machine ever it's built up as. You know, it's the most advanced alien technology, alien species ever created. let's Google who the Pied Piper is, and everyone fucking listens to Alexander Armstrong give us information as if they've never heard of the Pied Piper before.
Yeah.
And Sarah Jane is like, oh, really? That's fascinating. Like, Sarah Jane, you've heard of the Pied Piper. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and then they go to like scan alien landings from historical like medieval times or what. I don't really understand how they're able to do that, but they managed to scan through time backwards at various like crash sites and things of meteorites. They find a small one that landed the year before the Pied Piper showed up in his story, and Rani's like, oh well, he definitely came here on that meteorite then. Solid, I figured it out, I'm so smart. She jumps to that conclusion immediately. Mr. Smith's like, shut the fuck up. It's 30 centimeters big, okay? If I thought that he would have ridden it, I would have told you. But they said it's too small for him to possibly fit. Sarah Jane kind of feels bad for Rani. They give each other like this glance, and she's like, oh, we'll check out this rock anyway, because maybe it'll be important. And, you know, lo and behold, it is. What a shocker. What a shocker.
And then we have a scene that's definitely nighttime.
Definitely
I don't know what you're
nighttime,
talking
yes.
about.
It's shot in the dark. They shot this in the dark. It's pitch black. It's all those nighttime shadows everywhere. You know, when the moon is really bright and casts the hardest shadow you've ever seen of yourself on the ground. With
this scene is just, oh, let's just welcome you into the family some more. And it's just not interesting.
Yeah, I think it's fine as far as like a character, like the first proper character scene we have had with Rani and Sarah Jane. I do think it fucking goes on so long though. Like, it doesn't need to be quite as long as it is. And again, some of the dialogue in this in these episodes, man, are so bad. You know, like Rani's like speech when she's out and she's looking at the stars and she's like, oh, there's aliens out there, it's amazing, it's scary but exciting, blah blah blah. Like, I don't, maybe it's her performance, maybe it's just the way it's shot, or maybe it is just the lines themselves. I cringed at my goddamn skin.
The weird part about this episode is it basically follows the same structure as episode 1, because episode 1 opened up with scenes in each house, and then it went to school, and then it went to the circus museum, and this is what episode 2 does. It goes from the house to the school to the circus museum again. It's really weird. I don't understand why it's structured like this.
Yeah, and we basically find out the same information in both episodes as well. Like, we find out that Clyde tells jokes. We find out that Sarah Jane is scared of clowns. We find out that Rani is new and nervous about that. And we find out that Luke has no belly button. Like, these are things that we find out in every single episode. So, it is repetitive for sure, and I think I said in part 1 that I liked episode 2 more, but I don't know if that's true. I want rewatching it, you know. I think I maybe like the ending part. We'll get when we get to it more than the ending in episode 1, but I think really this is only a 2-parter because they had episode slots to fill. This could have been 1 episode, you know. They could have easily done this in 20 minutes.
Yeah. And the scene basically ends with Sarah Jane giving Rani a defense shield because she needs it to shield against the clown, which is like, why don't they ever use this again? I don't understand.
Because Rani hides it under her bed and she forgets about it. And, you know. Luke walks in on Sarah Jane staring at her super high-tech laptop as she's looking at photos of clowns and getting all scared, and we find out a little bit more backstory to how and why she's scared of clowns, with there being a big
One
storm.
of the photos she looks at is Clara the Clown from the Celestial Toymaker from the 60s, which is a fun little cameo there, which furthers the theory that maybe he is connected to the Toymaker.
Yeah. Yeah. Same guy. But there was a big storm, and she thought that the clown was real because she's a dumb idiot kid, and for whatever reason that stuck with her. We then go into
Yeah, 'cause
morning time.
No, she's like, for the first time ever, I screamed out for my parents who tragically died when
Yeah.
I was a baby. And this is just basically a setup for a few episodes' time where she actually goes back in time and she meets her parents. One of them is Mr. Steven from the Basil Brush show. Her dad is Steven.
Interesting.
It's a good episode, though.
In the morning, Rani's mum comes to give her a lovely cup of tea. What a very pleasant way to be woken up in the morning with just being hand-delivered some tea. But her mum smashes her face off of the force field. Rani jumps out of bed and is like, oh shit, I guess you got a migraine. Well, that was weird, wasn't it? Wow. Anyway, come sit down for a second. As her mum is none the wiser as to what happened, but there's a spooky red balloon outside in the garden.
Yeah,
Wow.
the scene where she opens up her curtains to look at the red balloon in the garden is just basically Jamie Lee Curtis looking at Michael Myers in her garden. You know, it's the same shot basically.
Yeah, and Sarah Jane then is heading off to some institute where they're keeping the meteor, and she's allowed to just walk in and take apart the meteor as she sees fit because she, like, did a deal, like, these guys owe her a favor or something.
Yeah, because the end of series 1, this Levine, there's a kid Levine that became the head of this institute for some reason. I don't remember it, so I might be completely wrong, but the kid basically started working for this institute because he's a child genius, and the kid pretends to be the real Luke Smith or something. I can't fucking remember. Like, there's a point where Luke gets adopted by this Levine. It's a weird episode. But yeah, basically they helped Sarah Jane helped them, so
and she goes to scan off a bit and take a small little chunk off the meteorite, but wouldn't you know it, Bradley Walsh has shown up, and he's like, oh, the clown that scared you as a kid was real, it was me. And Sarah Jane's like, how could you possibly know that? And it's, you know, it's not like she told that story out loud in her own house where the clown could have easily just been like listening in because he is actively stalking them. There's no way that could ever happen now.
Yeah, you know, for the fact that the clown is actively stalking each character, like, especially Clyde, who also has a ticket and was one of the first people to fucking see the clown, why isn't he given a fucking protection machine, you know? Like, why is he allowed to go home by himself?
Because he's the funny one. He doesn't need it. They know that he'll be okay. He's too funny. Yeah.
Wait.
It's very dumb, but the Bradley Walsh is like, I love scaring people. It's my favorite thing to do. Because I'm basically Pennywise, and it makes you guys just even cooler. But he vanishes before he can do anything else because a lady from the institute comes in to check that Sarah Jane is done, completely destroying this piece of really relevant scientific data for her own personal gain. And then we cut to a lovely shot of balloons riding up into the sky. Red balloons floating away. So the episode continues with the red balloons in the sky descending into children's hands, and all the kids turn into like these weird zombies and just start marching away out of the school.
Something that Torchwood would do so much better 1 year later with Children of Earth, which we are covering very soon after Series 14. I'm excited to cover it because it is amazing.
That is interesting. I don't know really what the point is in making all the kids walk out. It doesn't. They fix the problem like immediately.
Oh god, yeah.
You know, I guess it's just a way to get our characters back to where they were at the start of the episode, which is in the fucking museum, because this whole episode is a lie and doesn't need to exist. But yeah, the whole kid zombie plotline really goes nowhere.
I mean, it goes to the Circus of Museums. That's somewhere.
That's true. Yeah.
It goes like 2 miles down the road.
It goes to the Circus of Museums, did you say?
The Museum of Circus.
Sarah Jane finds out that the meteorite contains. Did I just say anal on the screen? What the fuck?
What?
It does. It just says anal.
I presume it means analyze.
No, it means anal. It just says
Okay.
anal. It just says anal and then it goes away. What the fuck? Hang on, watch this back.
What the fuck? Are
Okay,
you
it says
talking about?
analyzing in the wide shot. Okay, then it deletes itself. Right. Okay, that makes more sense. Sorry, I was skipping through it by just like getting like still images. So I just saw anal and then I pressed play and it just went away. It's like what the fuck. But anyway, we find out that the energy is based itself off fear, and again, it's Pennywise. It's scary alien that is manifests itself and lives on fear.
Oh god, I really just wish we could have done something original with this concept, but no, it's such a shame.
I mean, at this time, at least, you know, there was really just the book and the TV movie for it. So it wasn't. I don't know if it was. It's definitely still super famous, but it wasn't quite like back in the zeitgeist when they remade the movies, you know, and then everybody became re-familiar with the story for like a new generation or whatnot. So you know, at least there was some gap between them doing it. But yeah, it is boring if you know the story, where you're like, oh, you're just doing this, okay? Yeah. see this story again. But Sarah Jane finds out that the kids are all marching down the street, and she goes to join them, and she solves the problem immediately by getting Mr. Smith to phone all the kids' phones, and that just snaps them out of their trance, because, as we discovered, for whatever reason, mobile phones have that ability.
Dude, it gets introduced minute 15, and it resolves at minute 18. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's some
Good
pretty
lord.
good writing right there. That's the power of foreshadowing.
That could have been the entire episode, you know, in the entirety of part 2, focused on saving these kids. But no, nothing.
Also, I want to point something out here that makes no sense.
The entire
the
plot
kids
about the phones.
The kids are walking towards the camera, right?
That's
They're marching towards the camera, away from the school. The school is behind them. They're all brainwashed. They stop being brainwashed, and then they're told, "Oh, the kids are walking back to the school now. Everyone's going back to school." Yet they continue to walk away from the school. Every single one, nobody turns around. They all keep walking forwards. Which fucking school are they going to? Because it's not their one.
and also, they all just react as if nothing fucking happened. Like, we just didn't teleport 2 miles down the road. Like, it makes no fucking sense.
They're all really happy. They're all like, fuck yeah, we're here now. Awesome.
Like, none of this makes any sense.
Yeah, it's... but hey, our characters are back in the museum of the circus of museums. Sorry, that's where the museums like do trapeze work and things like that. But Sarah Jane locks out Clyde and Rani from the building, saying that she's gonna go and save Luke, because I forgot to mention Luke just randomly vanished when Sarah Jane wasn't looking. Because Bradley Walsh decided to kidnap him. She goes through into the Hall of Mirrors, which I love. This is the scene, which is why I think I liked episode part 2 more than part 1. Because it's the cheesiest, shittest effects for a Hall of Mirrors I have ever fucking seen. It would be right at home with Sarah Jane's era of Doctor Who.
Yes.
Like, you could put this in a Tom Baker episode and it would fit in that episode.
Yeah,
Like,
it
so
feels
bad.
like they just applied a movie maker filter over the timeline. It is.
And the fact that they're just standing clearly in a black studio with no set, and like Luke is pretending to smash against something that's not in front of him, and he's such a bad actor, so he's like, oh no, it's so good.
To be fair, there is probably like 3 or 4 mirrors at least, but You know.
Oh wow, yeah.
This does remind me of being in Orlando and going into a hall of mirrors, and my mum kept on walking into the mirrors, and then she wound up talking to herself, asking for directions, but she didn't realize it was herself.
Does your mom not know what she looks like?
It was dark, to be fair, but also
okay. That's so funny. I don't think I've ever done a Hall of Mirrors. I think I would like to at some point. But...
Nobody could figure it out, so somebody had to come in and save us all. Like one of the workers. Good time.
That's great. Yeah.
But yeah, this is basically the mirror sequence from It Chapter 2, but there's no little kid being murdered. You know, that's that scene where Bill Hader...
So it's not as good. Yeah.
I wish Luke was murdered in this episode. That would have been amazing. Because we mentioned it last time, but his face, the entire episode, is either confused or he just looks bored. Like, he just does not know what to do with himself. Like, he does not know what to do with his hands. Like, his hands are in his pockets the entire time. It's just, weird acting.
It's just as well that he's cast as like the awkward alien kid, you know, because I don't believe him as a real human being at all. But Sarah Jane ends up smashing one of the mirrors by using the sonic lipstick as Rani and Clyde break in to the museum.
The scene where Rani and Clyde talk outside of the window, there was supposed to be a line where Clyde reveals, because there's a point where Rani's like, hey, why do you always keep joking? That's really annoying. And Clyde is like, oh, so when I was a kid, my dad left me. My mum became serious, and I told jokes to cope with the fact my dad left me. And why would they cut this out? Because the entire time, he's been really annoying, and every character has pointed out that he's really annoying. And if you cut out the line where it's explained why he's really annoying, that cuts out all the humanity from him. So he's just really annoying for no reason.
Yeah.
And also it comes into play. That scene comes into play with the resolution. He's telling jokes in the face of fear, literally. Yeah. Why would they cut out that scene there? It's ridiculous.
And they do not establish in this episode that he tells jokes.
Yeah.
In episode 1, they say that's his entire thing. Every line he says, he's like, I'm the funny guy. But he has like nothing to do in this episode until right at the end. Yeah. And so if you forgot about it, you're fucked.
Yeah, if you just watched episode 2, it's like, now, why is this guy making jokes? This comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. To be fair, they're not. You wouldn't think he's the funny one though, because they're really bad jokes. You'd be like, oh, this is the guy that's not funny. Got you.
Again, it's just a resolution of Ghostbusters Afterlife. Just really terrible jokes.
Sarah Jane confronts Bradley Walsh, and I really dislike this scene. I like the performances from everybody, but I really don't like how nonchalant the clown is about just his plans just keep failing, and he's like, I don't give a shit. I absolutely don't care that you stopped me getting all those kids I was about to eat. I straight up don't care. I'm going to kill your son, and that's going to be chill. Or maybe I won't. I don't know how this works. But, you know, you just got to live with me, I guess, because I'm just here now, and that's what it's going to be like. And they're like, but what if we made bad jokes instead? And he's like, oh, fuck. Fuck, you did. Well done.
And then the editor keeps downloading new laugh track sound bites like it's a Big Bang Theory all of a sudden.
Yeah, and they say some really bad jokes. There's only one joke that I don't get that he says, because he's saying like every Christmas cracker joke you've ever heard in your entire life. But Clyde's got one joke where he's like, I went to the dentist, he said, say ah, I said, why? He said, my dog's dead. What's the joke there? Is the joke just the sudden twist of, oh, my dog's dead? Got
say,
you.
Aw.
You know?
You know, that's what you say when you hear bad news. Aw.
I don't know, but like, oh, it's like, oh, that's so cute. You know, my dog's dead. Oh, that's so cute.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, hell yeah, high five. But yeah, bad jokes, and eventually they suck Bradley Walsh into a rock.
They suck Bradley Walsh.
Into a stone, and he gets destroyed because I guess making a few handfuls of jokes is enough to destroy an entity of fear that's lasted 700 years. Crazy that nobody thought of that beforehand.
I mean, the fucking It. I don't know if it's true for a book as well, but It Chapter 2 ends with them just bullying the clown. Like, it's basically the same thing, and I hated that ending of It Chapter 2 because like that's all it took just to bully the clown and then step on him once he shrunk. Like, it's a fucking ridiculous ending.
Yeah, all of Stephen King's books kind of fall apart right at the end. It's the best part about them.
Yeah, when the cocaine binge ends.
Do you think Bradley Walsh remembers doing this?
No.
Do you think when he auditioned for Doctor Who, he was like, "Oh wait, I've been in this show before."
No,
like, I bet he doesn't even know they're connected.
No, he definitely doesn't. He might have a fond memory of working with Elizabeth Sladen. That's probably it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm sure if he was asked about it, he would fake. He probably doesn't remember much of it, but he would probably like fake a story of remembering working with her. You know, like saying, "Oh, she was so nice."
Yeah.
I'm sure he had fun.
He
does look like he's having fun, though.
Yeah, it's the most out of character I've ever seen him, because like Graham is basically just him playing himself, you know, like sarcastic old man. But this is like he's like chewing the scenery. He's having a lot of fun as this clown. He's almost unrecognizable in the makeup. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a shame he doesn't do more acting, because I would like to see more.
Yeah.
Like, I know he did EastEnders for like 1,000,000 years, and he did an episode of the Basil Brush Show, and I think that's all I know him from.
Yeah, I really only know him from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That was really my first impression with Bradley Walsh. But then Luke comes back from the dead, and everybody is happy and celebrates. They go back home where they're like, "Hey, we've solved everything. The problem's completely over. What a lovely, let's wrap this whole thing up." Very suddenly and kind of anticlimactically. And then Rani's parents come over and they're like, "I can't believe you staged a walkout." And Rani comes up with some sort of shit excuse. And then her mum is like, "Oh, by the way, all those kids that went missing just came back, by the way. I forgot to say that earlier." It's like, why would you say that right now? What a really weird thing to suddenly bring up.
The thing with Bradley Walsh's character, he says he's been doing this for 750 years, and there's lots of kids, but they don't die. So do all the kids come back? Like... No,
Sarah Jane has a line where because Bradley Walsh is like, eventually the kids just kind of you know, and then Sarah Jane has a line of like, "Oh, we'll get the kids back, at least the ones that disappeared this time."
Yeah,
you know, so there's 700 odd years of dead kids in this episode. Fun for the whole family. But yeah, the parents come back. The mum is like, "By the way, all those missing kids came back. What a cool place." We're having veggie chili for dinner. Everybody's welcome to come if they would want some. I would hit that up. Chili's fantastic, and veggie is perfect for me. So win-win scenario.
Then why don't you go?
And well, I wasn't invited. Okay, wasn't invited. Then I think the ending to this episode is so strange, because the way that this episode ends is there's like a heartfelt moment between Sarah Jane and Clyde, where Clyde is like, "God, what an amazing place the universe is. You never know what's going to happen." God, really grown.
The head teacher invited me over for tea. He's going to make me some chili.
Yeah. Sarah Jane's like, "Yeah, Clyde, you're right. The universe is a wonderful place. God, where's my son? Do I have a son? It's so strange that she has this like emotional moment of like, yeah, the universe is wonderful, looking at Clyde and not her own son. Like,
Also, there's a whole line where Rani's mum is like, "Oh, he usually my husband makes too much chili. He really wants me to become fat." Like Harash has a BBW fetish.
he's a feeder. He's a feeder. Yeah.
But yeah, the episode ends with
that's-
Sarah Jane looking up in the sky, which is kind of sweet because this whole show is just about found family, which is really obvious in every fucking episode.
Yeah, and that is all off the day of the clown.
Which
Which
the
I
title
think-
was a fucking lie because it's actually 2 days of a clown.
That's true. That we do see it definitely turn to nighttime, and it's an episode I think that's fine. It's fun. Part 1 is definitely better than part 2. There's a lot of issues in terms of pacing, dialogue, general plot, but the performances are fun and it's an easy watch. I don't think it's my favorite Sarah Jane that we've covered. I definitely think it's middling to bottom, but it was a fun enough time, and it was nice to see Bradley Walsh doing something, you know.
Yeah, for baby's first Stephen King, this is pretty decent. Like,
Yeah,
if you want
yeah.
to introduce your kid to basically the Stephen King concepts, this is probably a good starting point. Cause has he done any PG material? I don't think he has. So this is probably a decent place to start.
Yeah. It was, yeah, it's a pretty
it's
fun,
fine enough, yeah.
pretty fun little. It's, yeah. But that brings us to the end of this episode, and next week we will be looking at the news for the previous month. I don't think there's been a whole lot, but we do also have a Series 1 Doctor Who preview.
Looking
as
forward
we
to this
are
brand new show.
We are about to start watching this new Disney Plus original show, Doctor Who. I've never heard of it before. It sounds kind of weird. I don't know if it's going to be my thing, but Series 1 starts, so we're going to take the podcast to look at that in the next coming month. It's insane that is the next proper episode we are going to be doing, is looking at New Who. It's kind of just snuck up on me. I am weirdly not that excited.
Right.
I don't know. I think I just still have like a somewhat sour taste in my mouth from being underwhelmed by both the Christmas special and the 60th anniversary, so it's tempered my expectations. But that leaves me open to be blown away.
Which is kind of strange, because I looked at Letterboxd the other day, and you gave The Giggle 5 stars.
The Giggle was great. Yeah, the Giggle
Giggle
was great, but that is like 1 episode out of 4.
Right, okay. The
Yeah,
rest
no,
you
the
gave
other
7
4
or in. The rest you gave...
The rest are fine to good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest are fine to good. But this is Doctor Who we're talking about. This is I wanna be giddy with excitement. I wanna be let down beyond all expectations. But yeah, I am looking forward to it. Don't get me wrong. It's just I don't know if it's really hit me of, oh shit, here we go. Fuck yeah, new Doctor Who. But we will be staying up till midnight to watch I will be episodes 1 and 2, because they're dropping at the same fucking time, aren't they? That's so bad. Yeah, cool. So it's gonna be a very late night when that comes out, but yeah.
Yeah,
New
then
Doctor Who, baby.
Then we're going to record the podcast straight afterwards, so we're going to be up until 5 a.m.
Fuck that. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'll watch the episode, I'll go to bed, I'll record the podcast at some point the next day. Yeah. It's exciting. It's exciting, but we will be looking at Series 1 for the next like 7 weeks. Oh my god, nice. That's a really easy schedule for the next 7 weeks. Fuck yeah. But until then, you can follow us here on YouTube at youtube.com/whowatcheswhopod. We are also available in audio form anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. There's an RSS feed where you can plug us in to your podcast app of choice. Just look at the description. There is a trillion, billion, drillion links. You can follow us on Facebook at Who Watches Who. You can follow us on x.com at WatchesDoctor. Haven't plugged that one in forever. You can follow my YouTube channel at Psychedelic Gaming Hobos. You can buy my book.
Yes.
Buy my book, Can You Taste the Color Orange? Anywhere you can get books. That would be pretty cool. You could email us at whowatcheswhopod. There's a whole heap of things, so don't be a stranger, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.